The Miami Heat got a massive win last night against the Los Angeles Clippers on the road, 121-19. It was a game that was filled with drama, a lot of runs, and some big-time performances from Heat players. And on today's show, we're going to kind of recap the game and why this is such a massive development for the Miami Heat. I am Nick Roloff. This is the Heat Report by Chat Sports, but I don't think we can understate the importance of this victory. And I know it's kind of crazy to say that, considering this is a early November game, but Miami gets off to a really hot start this season, 3-1. But when you look at their wins, it was against the Hornets, against the Grizzlies, who are imploding, and then the New York Knicks, which is a good win. But then you lose to the Spurs and Lakers in back-to-back games on the road, games that you could absolutely have won. And then with the game against the Clippers and Nuggets to round out your road trip, you were staring a potential 0-4 road trip right in the face when you have to play the Nuggets tough on Wednesday. But to get the win today, that secures Miami at least a 500 record, returning back to Miami this weekend to play the Hornets and Trailblazers, and gives Miami another quality win over a quality opponent that will be in the playoffs in April and May in the Los Angeles Clippers. If you can't tell, I'm pretty fired up about that win. I was fist pumping. I was yelling in my room last night. Let me know if you're fired up by hitting that thumbs up icon. Before we get to some takeaways, how about this stat? I was absolutely appalled when I read this last night. The Heat beat Kawhi Leonard. It's the first time they beat a Kawhi Leonard team in the NBA regular season since 2013. That would be when he was with the San Antonio Spurs and the Miami Heat still had LeBron James. How insane was that to find out? 15-0 Kawhi was against Miami since then. Now, he has missed a lot of games against the Heat due to his load management and injury history, but for him to be available and the Heat to go on the road and take him down, well, that shows how different this Heat team may ultimately be. But I got 3 takeaways. I want to show them all here, and then we'll get into them individually here, but why this was a big game for the Heat and big developments. One, Bam Adebayo was the best player on the floor, and I'll explain more on that here in a second, but he was better than James Harden. He was better than Kawhi Leonard. Kel'el Ware, he bounced back. I asked for him to have a bounce-back performance yesterday when we made a video about Kel'el Ware. He did. And then Pelle Larsson, he just is a starter for this basketball team, and there's no other way to say it at this point. But we're going to start with Bam Adebayo, who had another double-double for the Miami Heat. 25 points, 10 boards, while shooting 56% from the field and 50% from three. Adebayo just looks so dang confident this year right now, and he is so aggressive as well on the offensive end. It just is really nice to see Bam bounce back from a year ago when he got off to a really poor start offensively in November and December. He ended up picking it up in the back half of the year, but his overall season totals and stats per game weren't as good because of how much he struggled early on. But he has got off to a really hot start and looks like an all-star. Right now, if you had to cast ballots for an all-star team in the Eastern Conference, the Heat would have 2 all-stars, Bam Adebayo and Norman Powell. I'm not kidding you on that. And what was so impressive about Bam's performance last night is that he did it offensively while locking down on the defensive end. We are witnessing one of the best, if not the best, two-way players in the NBA on a nightly basis. And I just hope Heat fans value him as much as I do. A lot of you in the comment section do not value Bam Adebayo. I just hope you guys finally are turned and see the light, which at this point, if you already didn't respect Bam, I don't know if you ever will. I mean, Zubac, who is 7 feet, 250, an absolute monster physical presence in the interior, and Bam just made him look like a little kid. Adebayo guarded him for 8 minutes last night, about 41 possessions. Zubac, when defended by Bam, did not have a single point. He turned the ball over 3 times. Adebayo locked him up. He also defended James Harden extremely well in the clutch. I mean, you look at the turning point in that game yesterday, it was a 1-possession game, and Harden was isolating on Bam after getting the switch, tried his little step back after a 1-dribble drive. Adebayo stayed with him, didn't foul him, didn't get up into his grill, and then forced a pass where Norman Powell jumped in front of Zubac and turned it over. Bam is such a pivotal piece for this Miami Heat basketball team. And with this new offensive scheme, we're seeing Adebayo's offense really look more consistent than we've ever seen in the past, but we're also witnessing him clamp up defensively every night as well. He's our captain for a reason, folks. Show him some love. Spam 13 down in the comment section for the Heat captain. We also got some good signs on second-year big man Kel'el Ware. I talked about Ware and the issue Miami may have with Kel'el Ware yesterday on the channel, and I said at the end that he needs a big bounce-back performance against the Clippers because with everything that's been going on, gets kind of benched, called out. If he doesn't respond in a big way, I'll be concerned about his long-term future in Miami. Not only did he bounce back and have a good game, he had his best game of the season for the Miami Heat. And it actually came off of the bench. Yeah, Pelle Larsson was starting in this game with Norman Powell back. Larsson was starting in place of Powell. Powell returns. Ware heads to the bench. And coming off of the bench, Ware was dominant. Shot great from the field. 16 points, 2 blocks. But I don't really give a shit about his stats. Because the number one thing that should impress you and that should make you excited and hope that this continues is his activity both on the glass and in the passing lanes. He had 2 blocks. He had another deflection. He was all over the place defensively. He was making the extra rotations on the defensive end of the floor, closing out aggressively, but also not so aggressive to where he fouls on an open three-point shooter in the corner. He was boxing out on the glass, battling with Brook Lopez and Ivica Zubac at times. And even though he only totaled 5 rebounds and he didn't get every rebound, his effort battling with Zubac and Lopez ultimately allowed Miami to close out more defensive possessions, specifically in the second half. His stint in that late third quarter, early fourth quarter was so important when Miami went from down by 8 or so to ultimately up by 13. It was a really good performance from Kel'el Ware. We got more coming up. But this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. The season continues to roll on in basketball, and the weather is changing. But you know what never changes? Well, the feeling of being right. Keep the season rolling on PrizePicks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. So simple to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. You could also now copy other lineups from other people in one click, whether it's a friend, celebrity partner, or just someone whose picks you like. Hit the follow button and check out every lineup they create in the new feed tab on PrizePicks. Entry for this game on Thursday, more than Bo Nix completions, more than Ashton Genty receiving yards, more than Brock Bowers receptions. I think it's going to be a pass-heavy script for the Raiders as they probably go down early against the Broncos. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. It really is so annoying and frustrating watching Kel'el Ware at times because you get the performance you got last night and you're like, oh my goodness, this is a special young player in his second season that can be a difference maker defensively on the glass and on the offensive end of the floor because his 3-point shot off the catch looks really nice right now, and he's also a really good lob threat. We saw him connect with Jovic on a really good alley-oop in the first half. But the issue is that he does not give you this effort every single night. I have said this, I think, on 7 or 8 different videos over the past 3 months. And some of you guys in the comment section online hate on me for saying it. But it's the God's honest truth. I believe in him. I know how good he can be. But he doesn't give you 100% effort every night. And I don't want to have our head coach, Erik Spoelstra, feel the need to call him out almost every other week about his effort. How about you just be a professional who's making millions of dollars and do it every night? Because if you did, well, you could make a lot more money, Kel'el Ware, and you could be an all-star. Because that's the ceiling this young kid has. can you please just give max effort every night like you did against the Clippers? You do that, you're going to be a special player in this league. Let's transition over to Pelle Larsson because I think he just might be a full-time starter at this point, folks. I really just don't know how, at this point, you ultimately move him back to the bench. In the rotation Miami has right now, it's very, very good. And I keep on saying this when Tyler Hero returns. I do not envy Erik Spoelstra's job. I think Hero will fit. I just don't know how they ultimately handle the rotations because Larsson's been thrusted into the starting lineup, filled in for Norman Powell, who missed 3 games with that groin injury, the Hornets game, the Spurs game, and the Lakers game, but started this game against the Clippers with Norman Powell back. I mentioned earlier, they moved Kel'el Ware to the bench. Well, look at the difference for Pelle Larsson when he's in the starting lineup when comparing him off the bench. Now, also a lot of this could be because when he doesn't start, he only plays about 5 minutes a game. And when he starts, he plays 27 minutes a night, but he's shooting 55% from the field, 40% from 3, and is dynamic both offensively and defensively. And I think that defensive presence is why he will ultimately remain in this rotation and in the starting lineup for the foreseeable future. He was able to defend Kawhi Leonard and James Harden. I wouldn't say good because those two players had great performances. And they're all-time greats. They're both top 50 players in NBA history and will be in Massachusetts when their career is all done in the Hall of Fame. But Larsson, in some stints last night, was able to put up really competitive defensive possessions and force Harden, force Kawhi Leonard to give the ball up, to take tough shots. And yeah, did they make some of them? Yes. But it was still excellent defense from Pelle Larsson. I think he just fits so well with Mitchell, Powell, Wiggins, and Bam. And I just don't know how, after watching him over the last 4 games, you can pull him from that starting lineup. Like, the only way that I would bench Larsson and start a player like Jovic or Ware at this point is if you have another injury or if you face a team that plays a double big lineup. 2 big men on the inside, like a New York Knicks, where they have Cat and Mitchell Robinson or something like that. But against a team like the Nuggets, who we play on Wednesday, their starting lineup is Jamal Murray, Cam Johnson, Christian Brown, Aaron Gordon, Jokic. Yeah, Bam's going to be on Jokic, and then you've got 4 players that can switch, which is a perfect matchup for Larsson to start once again. So I do expect Miami to keep on rolling with that starting lineup they did against the Clippers because it was successful. They closed the game out well against the Clippers last night. And they started the game well as well. Got out to a 12-2 lead in that game. Make sure you do subscribe because we are the most interactive YouTube channel on the Miami Heat there is. We'll be live on Wednesday night for Nuggets Heat. We also have a video going out tomorrow morning as well. Subscribe for daily Heat content. All right, final thing I want to talk about on today's show. Andrew Wiggins actually had a good game last night. But I'm having some interesting thoughts about Wiggins. I just feel like he's so volatile this year, and the highs of Andrew Wiggins are very high. The lows of Andrew Wiggins are very, very low. Like, he had an excellent fourth quarter, hit a couple big threes, good defensive possessions as well. But then you watch him sometimes throughout the game, and you're like, what is this guy doing? Like, last night, he ended up having 17 points, was a +9 on 7-12 shooting, and 3 of 5 from 3. But that was all pretty much coming from the fourth quarter. And you look at his numbers this year, like, their raw numbers are good outside of the three-point shooting. The issue I have with Andrew Wiggins at times is his shot selection. Like, there are times he tries to drive into a crowd and put up a little, like, spin around 8 to 15 footer, or he tries to do that little right hook shot when he has a smaller defender on him. And sometimes they will go in. He had a great spin one-legged free throw line jumper last night in that second half. But when you look at Wiggins sometimes, this Heat team is predicated on ball movement and locating the open shooter. But there are many occasions where Andrew Wiggins elects to take a contested mid-range jumper or drive into a crowd rather than make the simple pass. Like, Wiggins got an offensive rebound last night, which, shout out Wiggs, grabbing an offensive board. He's been great on the glass this year. And he could have kicked it back out for an easy Davion Mitchell 3, wide open, non-contested. Instead, he tried to put up another shot off the rebound, and it wasn't even close. There were times he tried to take Kawhi Leonard off the dribble last night one-on-one, and he got it stolen, or he got blocked, or didn't even come close to making a shot. Like, he was good last night. Don't get it twisted, but there are times where his selection of shots and decisions are just very, very bad. And, like, I'm not saying the Heat need to shop him off and sell him at the deadline, but here's the point I'm trying to make. Wiggins, at his best, is very key to this Heat team. But when he is a below average night, boy, is it really evident. And if the Heat want to upgrade at the deadline, say this first half of the season goes so well, the East is wide open, which it is, and Miami wants to go buy at the deadline to try to compete this season, if they want to go get a major upgrade, I think Andrew Wiggins absolutely needs to be traded, making $28 million this season, $30 million player option next year, which he's likely going to opt into. It could provide you cap relief for the future, but it also will provide you a contract and fine player to put into a trade if Miami goes out there and tries to acquire a legit piece at the deadline. But be the GM for me. Should the Heat trade Andrew Wiggins before the NBA trade deadline in February? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Get down in the comments and let me know your thoughts. You can also let me know your thoughts over on Twitter. I live tweet Heat games. I have reactions. I talk Heat rumors, Heat news. So go give me a follow over there if you want more content outside of our YouTube channels at Nick_Roloff.